This morning, what I'm going to talk about is a book that I'm reading right now, and it's called Scale or Fail. And the reason that this book is so important right now is when I was doing lead generation this morning, I had a client reach out to me about like, hey, how's business? You know, I'm sure business is booming. Obviously, people hear what they hear and they see what they see. And, you know, there's still the occasional bidding war out there. But, you know, Ben, you and I have had this conversation about, you know, how the last half of the year is going to look different than the first half of the year. And that can be based on a lot of things. When we were at ALC 2 weeks ago, you know, we talked about, hey, does it kind of feel like September after, you know, school is starting after Labor Day? So the reason this book is important to me right now, again, it's basically you either have to scale your business or you're going to fail. And when you did the introduction or the bio, you saw something in there about, you know, I have other interests outside of real estate, but until I grow my residential real estate business to a level where I'm comfortable handing it over so I can go focus on these other things, there's certain things that have to happen. So you've heard the saying like, hey, do you have a really smart bookshelf, or are you actually reading the books on your shelf? So this is a book that I have, like I said, recently started, and we're not going to have time to go through all of it, but I will do a high level. I will have a high level touch. But if you've ever been to church and the minister is talking during the sermon and you go, wow, like he or she is talking to me, like you feel like they're talking to you, that means not only they have your attention and they're keeping your attention, otherwise you're going to check out. And a previous mentor always said, you know, around the 1st of December, what do people do? They check out. You know, Christmas is a holiday. It's not a hollow week. It's not a hollow month. But he always said, check in, don't check out. So we all have dreams and goals, but what are we actually doing to fulfill them? You stood up on stage at Southport Ranch, Ben, in January of 2022, and you just put it out there like Babe Ruth calling a home run shot back in the days of the Yankees, saying, I'm going to do this number of listings and I'm going to be a one-man wrecking crew. Like, you were vulnerable and you put it out there, and that's what it was. It's almost like when you get into real estate and you tell people that you're going to take the test, what does everybody want to know? When do you take the test? Are you nervous? Like, don't tell anybody when you're taking the test, because it just adds extra pressure, you know, to you. So again, the first step in this book is, you know, you've got to take that first step. You got to take the leap. So think about when you got into real estate. Everybody got into real estate for a different reason. What was your big why? What was the leap? And whenever you read a self-help book, you're always going to hear and see things that tie into what we have at Keller Williams. There's going to be a chart that I'm not going to show you. I'm just going to read it, and it basically it references kind of the 135, or the 135, you know, would reference this. But you know, my journey into real estate was in Arizona in 2004 when I thought I was ready to go buy my first house. Went to the grocery store on a Sunday to get groceries. Got a real estate publication, found a townhome, called the agent, and we set up an appointment for the next day. And I thought the guy was an idiot. He didn't know anything about his own listing. I didn't know that there was typically an agent who represents the seller and an agent who typically rents the buyer. So me and my wisdom said, I can do this. So I went and got my real estate license to represent myself so I could go make 3%. Well, I didn't know that it was going to turn into, you know, what it certainly turned into. You know, I was dual career for 12 years. I had 2 phones, 2 laptops, 2 professional lives. They didn't know about each other. And I sold, you know, 82 homes in 2016 as a dual career agent. If you have another career, never reference yourself as part-time. You are dual career, because if 82 units is part-time, then I'll certainly take that title. But just make sure you reference yourself as dual career. And I coached the dual career agents for Go for almost 2 years. And that's something that I always preach to them is, hey, you are a dual career agent. Your real estate clients don't need to know that you have something else going on. Now, people say, well, why were you dual career for 12 years? I was hanging on to the security of the salary and the benefits. I really did like my other job. I was in telecommunication sales. I had a 5-state territory. Most of that was reachable by car. So when I was driving, I was on the phone. And I did that with one licensed assistant. And then I took the leap of faith, ironically, the day that Donald Trump got inaugurated. It wasn't because he got inaugurated, but that was the day where I told my boss, John, I said, hey, I'm done. And I pulled over to a pizza joint on 121 down in the Colony, ironically, very close to where our business center is. And I sent the email of resignation, and he held on to that for like 10 days and didn't turn it into his boss, and called and said, are you sure you want me to turn this in? And I said, turn it in, I'm not coming back. And then I got to one phone and one career and one laptop and one life. And then my team sold 135 units in 2017. So you got to bet on yourself. You got to believe in yourself that it's going to work. So again, if you don't have this vision, how are you going to get someplace? I took a coaching class last week, and they talked about, using a GPS device. If you're trying to drive from Dallas to Destin, some of you have probably been there before and you drove, you know how to get there without a map. I see Kelly Wicker on here from Midtown. Kelly, I know you're from Louisiana. You know how to get home without, putting in your address because you've been there so many times. But when you go someplace for the very first time, you got to figure out how you are going to get there. So she talks about, in the second chapter of this book, your strategic vision. So, and the third thing she talks about is cash flow. So we all go through the ups and downs of cash flow challenges. Even after 18 years, there could be 2 or 3 months of not having a closing, and you got to be able to weather that storm in between, commission checks. And I've had months, over 100, and I've had, goose egg months. And Ben, I'm sure, you've had those as well. Sometimes, new construction gets pushed. Things happen, during COVID or after a hailstorm, you got roof problems and things get pushed out a couple of weeks. We think of everything on a monthly basis. At corporate America, they teach us to think from the 15th to the 15th, not from the 1st, through the 30th. So, on page 59 of the book, and I don't expect anybody to have the book with you, but basically she talks about the day her cash flow stopped, and she was going back to the recession of 2009. And literally it says, the day I drove myself to the beach, I sat in the sand for what felt like an hour. My goal was to shift my energy from a state of fear to reconnecting with my vision, my passion, in a place of abundance. Where have we heard fear or faith? Where have we heard abundance? Okay, we've heard that here at Keller Williams. So something that I read on the flight home to my parents' 50th anniversary about a month ago is there is a $986 billion list of credit card debt in this country right now, which is up 20% from just a few years ago. And where I'm going with that is, and I read an article yesterday or the day before, is that people are using credit cards to bridge the gap. The problem is the interest rates on credit cards are at like a 22-year high. Now, we know what the interest rates in our industry, are right now, but there's so many things that go along with that: credit card debt, automobile interest rates, and all that stuff. So where I'm going with the cash flow in your business, and if you can't manage your personal finances, how are you going to manage your business finances? About 30 minutes ago, I just got my P&L for 2 properties that I was doing myself up in Sherman. And one of them I pulled off the market after 45 days, and a renter is actually moving in today. The other one I'm pulling off the market. You'll be getting that email shortly, Janice. And we'll pull that off the market. And I got a renter going in on August 19th. Because we went so far over budget because of the unknowns. Yes, unlike HGTV, where they never lose money flipping homes on TV, now it's a matter of, instead of taking a loss on a flip, weather the storm with break even or just a little bit of negative cash flow, but at least I still have the home. So tying this into cash flow in your business, think about what your monthly expenses are. If you are going to mega camp, you are spending money to go to mega camp. Obviously, unless you're a MAPS coaching student, that it's included. We all know family reunion is 6 months away, but there's a month where you've got a ticket and you've got expenses for that. as you probably know, my anniversary date or my cap date is July 1. I walk into Denise and I write the check, and I have the same split that everybody else does. I do it just to get it out of the way. Now, my P&L won't look as good in July as it will in another month, because that's one big lump sum of expense that I have right there. And the next chapter, she talks about the alliance of your team. And she says, focus on the who, not the how. If you've ever heard Gary's story about Mo Anderson, Gary didn't branch out into Oklahoma because it was Oklahoma. He broke out into Oklahoma because of Mo Anderson. So it's about the people, not the how, okay? And what does he say? Hire slow, fire fast. Again, I'll be vulnerable and admit, I had to give Annika her job back about early June, because I have burned through 3 transaction coordinators this year. But again, in the saying of hire slow, fire fast, why would I keep 3 people on that just can't get the job done? Now, it wasn't ideal to go to Annika and say, hey, guess what? You want to get your job back? We had a very serious conversation about what that's going to look like and how long I need her to sit in that chair before we can, again, start scaling. So you must hire key talent. Some of the things that people, what do they say? I wasn't the smartest kid in class, but I sat next to them. There are things that, I'm not good at. Okay, I'm not good at social media. I'm not good at drones. I'm not good at digital. I'm not good at video. That's not what I want to do. That's not what I'm good at. I just show up. It's one take, and then Annika makes it look pretty, sound pretty, and then post it. Okay, so again, if you got the wrong people in your business can crumble, and it can crumble in a hurry. Think about what Christina has done for your business, Ben, and imagine if she takes a 1-year vacation. Like, you're handicapped for a day if you don't have her versus, going away for a year. And then Stacy's, who's on here as well. Like, we were never able to grow into Oklahoma until Stacy got here. She's from there. She is licensed there, and now branching more into land and farm and ranch than I ever have, because that's how she was raised. That's her specialty. She loves farm and ranch, loves horses, and again, has a very strong network of people in South and Southeast Oklahoma. So be thinking about, where you have gaps in your business. And if you don't have the money, then you better have the time to do it. And if you do have the money, then you go hire somebody else to do what you don't want to do. I have a full-time ISA. She's literally, she was sick yesterday, but she's back in the game today. She pounds the phones for recruiting, and then she, brings them over to me. And then I have conversations with them to make sure that they're legitimate before I send them to Janice or Barrick in Flower Mound, or Kathy B over in South Lake, or Seth in Garland, wherever it may be. She's going through the first round, I'm going through the second round, and then I turn them over to a team leader to make sure. So again, even though that, Janice isn't on my payroll, but again, she's part of the team that we have here at Dallas Preston Road, to help bring people in from a recruiting perspective, just like Teresa does. And the next thing we're going to talk about is leading your vision. I don't know if you know who Dana Gentry is, but Dana Gentry is part of Keller Williams. She's got multiple states. She does the profit share Zoom with Linda McKissick. She's got the most incredible vision board I've ever seen in my life. Annika, I don't know if we can find, or if I've sent that to you after I was on that Zoom, but she talks about the things that she does throughout the course of the year. Like Gary says, he schedules all his vacations first. So she takes like 2 or 3 big trips a year with her husband and kids, but she also takes 2 big like girls trips a year. But there's other things that she does, and everything is on this vision board, and she has it so she looks at it, every day. Just like behind me, which you can't see, on that green sticky note is exactly how much money I have to make in 2024. And then it's broke down into units sold, flips, team splits, and then passive income, whether it come from profit share or my long-term rentals. So again, it's okay, that's the number right there on the sticky note. but then somewhere else is the actual plan of how we're going to back into it. Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were on stage last January, wasn't the number like, hey, if I take 42 listings, I'm going to get to the volume that I need to get to? And if you've ever walked by Ben's office, he's got, pieces of paper with numbers on them. That is his vision board of where he is. Everything we do, people, is about keeping score. And what do they say? If you're not winning, you're losing. I am highly competitive, just like Teresa is. And, Teresa never wants to lose to Southlake when it comes to recruiting. This is Troy versus Troy. Okay, this isn't Troy versus Ben. This is me versus me. And you've seen these little creatures that sit on your shoulder where one says you can do one thing and one says you can't do one thing. It's amazing what our mind is at like 6 o'clock in the morning when we don't want to get up, but at 11 o'clock at night, we think that we can go out and conquer the world. So be thinking about the you versus you conversation. And I'm not telling you to sandbag 2023 because, it is what it is. But again, you've got 5 months. And then when I was on Huddle for Teresa a week ago yesterday, we talked about the reset goal is what was your goal? Where are you at? Where's the gap? And what are you going to do the next 5 months to scramble to get there? Yes, you could have a cash buyer that contracts in early January and still close in December. So we have 5 full months to close our gap. So think about that, which leads into the last chapter of the book, which is called execution. And in the execution, let me pull up the page number. I had it marked, but I lost it. When she talks about execution, it says, even a small reduction in errors and rework can have a significant impact. Think about Tiger Woods and how many times he has tweaked his swing, or how professional golfers will completely switch putters because they're close, but they're not getting exactly the results they want. So again, are you working on your business? Are you working in your business? Now, don't make so many tweaks that you never implement the tweak. Something that we actually started today, and I got this from my MAPS coach, is, okay, who are you going to call, or who are you going to contact? When are you going to contact? And how are you going to contact them? So every morning at 9:30 in my Outlook calendar is a time block called lead generation time. And Annika and I went through an exercise last week. She's actually doing this with Stacy, is who are the 5 past clients that I need to contact today? Yes, I absolutely did it after I got off Huddle before I got on here. And I can tell you 4 out of the 5 have already responded to me. That means that I have a good relationship with them. One of them was the most expensive home I ever sold. I sold it in February, but they didn't move into the model home until July 10th because the builder had a lease back. There are 2 issues with the house that he wants me to reach out to the builder, and I've actually already done that. Where I'm going with this is you have to stay in relationship with your people. A lot of times we become too transactional and we just think that, okay, I got the check, let's move down the road. So again, are you going to call them? Are you going to email them? Are you going to text them? Are you going to mail them something? Are you going to bring them to a client party? Touches. There's no secret. Yesterday, I wrote 2 personal notes to 2 people high up within KW that I met last week. And again, I know that sounds old school to put like a business card in there, but I thanked them and I appreciated them for their time. And when I see them at Mega Camp, they're absolutely going to remember me. So remember, when you are a leader, you have to lead. There's eyes and ears on every move you make. You have to set the example. Ben, that's 20 minutes. That's what I got for you.
Bro, that was quick. It was powerful. Take the leap, Troy. I mean, that's what I heard. You got to take the leap. And again, I've probably heard this, but I think so many of us are guilty of having a very smart bookshelf. I've got about 12 of them right here in front of me on my ledge in my office. And I've committed myself that most of those books now need to be read or given away. If I'm not going to read them, then you know what? Let me bless someone else with that. So I appreciate that. And I think we need to understand where our gaps are. And again, I'm analyzing that currently myself. You've done that. And again, leverage is so important to what you do. You've got amazing team members. I mean, I think Annika is fantastic. Stacy, I think the world of, just like Christina, I think, having those folks on our team and sitting in the right seat on our bus allows us to go do and achieve our natural level of achievement. So again, I appreciate you sharing that, because again, if you didn't get a nugget from some of that, then that, again, that's a you problem. I say it each and every week, right? Janice, I see you laughing. That's correct, right? That's a you problem. So Troy, you brought the meat this week. That's all I ask. You've delivered again.
Well, and to put this into medical perspective, think of the last time you went into an urgent care facility, okay? The person at the front desk said driver's license and symptoms and insurance. You go sit in the lobby, and then you go in and you get your temperature and your blood pressure taken, and then you go get put in a little room, and then the doctor comes in and says, okay, I'm gonna look at your throat, look at your ears, you have this. Somebody else brings in your prescription, and then somebody else collects your money and discharges you on the way out, okay? It is a little circle that you do, hopefully within an hour. How is this any different? We have owners and OPs and team leaders and MCAs and directors of first impressions. It's no different.
I agree.